Thank you, Charisma, and thank you to the Railway Engineering Institution for inviting us here today. So lots of discussions earlier about issues with voiding under S&C. And in the context of that, I'd like to start by going back over a decade now to when Steve Featherston was Track Programme Director at Network Rail, and he posed John and Andy Webb a question. How do you complete a half-life S&C ballast clean without removing the track? And equally importantly, how do you do this in a non-disruptive standard possession? So today, we're going to share with you how we answered Mr. Featherston's questions. We're going to introduce you to the ballast undercutter, how it works, and importantly, how do we complete ballast renewals under S&C, and share with you a case study showing how it's been deployed and as a result saving hundreds and in some cases thousands of pounds per linear metre when it comes to ballast renewals. So as an engineering plant manufacturer, our sole objective was to create a cost-effective ballast removal solution deployable on plain line and S&C, which maintained the advantages of road rail flexibility while achieving production rates comparable to high output. So after a 10-year engineering programme, some 85,000 hours of development and £5.5 million of investment, let me introduce you to the ballast undercutter. So we believe that to take advantage of short possessions, the machine must be a true, rapidly self-mobilising road railer, able to travel to site in W6A gauge, and then when it arrives on site, transforms into its working mode. Now, to avoid the cost of additional excavation equipment, it must be capable of self-excavating underneath the track, and to allow us to remove ballast from beneath the track or from beneath converging and diverging track sections, the undercutter equipment must be mounted on one side of the machine. And when in operation, it must remove the ballast cleanly and in a way which does not disturb the track bed formation. So that's the theory. So the reality is that the ballast undercutter is deployed just like any RRV on the back of a wagon. It will on track at most access points on a portable 5-metre wrap like UTAS, and takes just 15 minutes to rail up, ready to travel to the work site. The trenching head is capable of cutting through granite bedrock and excavates a trench at the sleeper ends from a simple skim dig right down to 1.5 metres deep if drainage is required, which seems quite topical after the winter we've just had. And then the ballast undercutter bar can be deployed at various depths from 250 mil down to 500 mil below sleeper base. And once set, the hydraulic depth control functions interlock to prevent uncontrolled depth changes. It takes just 15 minutes from breaking ground to achieving a full undercutting width, and a similar time frame to pack that equipment away, which allows us to, it's our terminology, leapfrog over obstacles like catch pits, etc. You may have seen in the video that the machine is always travelling on supported track, moving away from the excavation, and this allows us to backfill ballast almost immediately after the excavation. And to give you an idea of production rates, it'll move about 6 tonnes of material a minute into open wagons on adjacent lines or into MFS or rail trailers on single line operation. So following our Plant Technical Authority approval for its use in plain line back in 2024, we spent a year working with the Network Rail Track Technical Authority team to get an approved S&C undercutting method. One of the most significant questions that we had to resolve was, how do we keep the track deflection within allowable limits when undercutting? So we do this by starting the undercutting process on the plain line section ahead of the S&C, ramping in, of course, and then matching up with any crossfall design as required. Then once at the S&C, we undercut to expose 3.5 meters or so of excavation behind the shield trailer. We then bring the undercutter to a safe stop, at which point the tech will confirm the excavation geometry. And we then commence the ballast backfill, which forms the primary track support for the S&C. At this point, duff jacks can then be installed and the track geometry checked and any fine adjustments made then with the duff jacks. The ballast is then tamped and the jacks removed, and at this point, the track is now passable to plant and the undercutting recommences. This cyclical process, the cyclical ballast renewal increment, takes between 20 and 25 minutes. Now, compared to our production rates on plain line, where we would typically get 60 to 80 meters of excavation per minute, it is slower, but ensures that the delicate S&C is not compromised. So with this cyclical dig increment in mind, and subject to site-specific nuances, of course, accounting for ramping in and out, line-side furniture like catch pits and S&T, we can present some nominal timings for how long it would take to complete a ballast renewal under different types of switches. So, for example, a C-switch ballast renewal would typically take us about 16 hours to complete, excluding the follow-up DTSing, which is the preferred hand-back method, and an F-switch would be about 23 hours. So, supporting the undercutter in this methodology on a typical ballast S&C ballast renewal, we'd have 3 RRV excavators. One with a tamper bank on the adjacent line consolidating the ballast. And then in front of the ballast undercutter, we'd have an RRV with rail trailers and box sides receiving about 16 tons of material per 3.5 meter increment. And then following the ballast undercutter is another RRV with rail trailers and box sides loading clean ballast into the excavation. This cyclical ballast excavation increment defines the critical path of our renewals process, but usually provides enough float for the 2 RRVs to travel to and from the train or ballast stockpile, fill, unload the ballast cargo without delaying the progress of the cyclical dig increment. So that's the method, but how do we actually apply it? So where we have a standard crossing across a 6 foot, or the 2 roads separated by a 6 foot, we would simply undercut through one of the through routes. Then we would cross-track the machine onto the adjacent road at a wrap or using a portable wrap like a UTAS close to the excavation, and then complete the ballast undercutting on the adjacent road. Now, the width of the ballast undercutting bar is such so as not to leave a ballast island in between the two roads. Turnout scenarios or crossings across a wideway require a little bit more thinking about. So, for instance, how do we not pass the ballast undercutter over an unconsolidated section of track? How do we not re-undercut track section which has just been consolidated? And how do we not leave behind those ballast islands? So, using this turnout example behind me, we'd apply the same cyclical dig increments, but we'd only undercut part of the through route leading up to the turnout. And as we approach the turnout, we employ the slew function on the undercutter bar to progressively undercut a thinner slice around the turnout, leaving the turnout undisturbed. This same function of the machine allows us to remove ballast islands when we've leapfrogged over something like a catch pit. So we would retract the digging equipment, travel past the obstacle, cut back in, and then use the slew function to essentially back cut that island that has been left behind. But going back to this scenario, once we've completed our slice, we then travel the undercutter back to the access point, or again on a UTAS, turn the machine around through 180 degrees, and travel back to recommence the undercutting process of course ramping in again. And it's simply just repeating then that cyclical ballast renewal process until the turnout has been undercut and the ballast reconsolidated, and at which point we clear off to allow the DTS OTM to come through to complete the handback. Another neat feature of the machine, as well as this undercutter slew function, is being able to pivot the entire trench head and undercutter assembly on hydraulic rams, which allows us to introduce or change crossfalls across the entire layout independent of cant. We're also able to smoothly change the crossfall as we're travelling, which allows us to reverse the crossfall as we enter or leave the layout if required. So, since our timber S&C approval, we've completed 9 S&C undercutting shifts, and we have our concrete S&C trial scheduled in 4 weeks' time, which we're really excited about. But I'll just share a couple of case studies with you now with how it's being used. So, to give you some history, the site suffered from heavily compacted, contaminated ballast, often suffering with late possessions, temporary speed restrictions in place. Previous attempts to resolve this using non-undercutting methods without removing the track yielded unsatisfactory results. So APWeb plant hire were tasked with completing the remaining ballast refurb in a single 10-hour possession. And the table behind me shows a comparison of the previous excavation methods employed on the site in Droitwich. And the Alliance very kindly shared some of their performance data with us, which showed that using vacuum excavation methods, they would yield around 6 metres of production per shift at a cost of around £3,000 per metre, including ballast reinstatement. They also tried conventional road railers with clamshells and in-dig buckets, which yielded around 11 metres of production per shift at a cost of £1,200 per metre. In either case, both methods failed to undercut or remove ballast from beneath the bearers properly, and it was reported that vacuuming methods were honeycombing the formation or disturbing the track bed formation. So the ballast undercutter was deployed and completed the renewal and reinstatement within a single shift, with a comparative cost of £480 per metre, including ballast reinstatement. This is not to mention the savings in Schedule 4 and Schedule 8 costs associated with the other methods. And importantly, we did not disturb the ballast formation, or the track bed formation rather. So to illustrate the effect on the track bed quality, at a site in Helpingham in the eastern region with Alex Thompson and the works delivery team up there, they used the ballast undercutter to complete a 220-yard Cat 12 ballast renewal in a 12-hour shift to correct recurring ride quality issues. Now, the graph behind me shows a pattern of deterioration following repeated maintenance interventions. The ballast undercutter was deployed, and because the undercutter bar leaves a flat formation, as mentioned, it served to delete the track bed memory, vastly improving the ride quality, as you can see at the top of the graph, but it is in fact now showing a pattern of improvement. Also, by not removing the track, it seems obvious, we massively de-risked the renewal, as any curtailment of works is simply a case of recovering the machine and backfilling the open excavation. And to further illustrate some of the direct cost savings, on this site we helped to save £88,000 just in welding and restressing costs alone. But coming full circle to answer the bigger question, how do you complete a S&C ballast renewal with an approved method efficiently and effectively without removing the track? Well, in our opinion, we think the answer is the ballast undercutter. So, you've heard enough from me now. I'd like to thank you very much. John Webb, our technical director, will answer any questions you have. But of course, we'll be hanging around for the rest of the day, so do come and see us, chat with us, or if you'd like to get in touch, please do. Thank you very much.